I have a confession to make. It was several years ago, and I was in an airport traveling home, and I stopped by a coffee shop in the airport to get my little cup of happiness. Now, I know this is a character defect, but I am a little bit of a coffee snob, and I would die before I would drink Folgers. So here I am standing in line, and the problem is, I don't know if you have this experience, it is very hard to find a cup of coffee that's good in an airport. Am I right? Exactly. But they charge you an arm and a leg and half of a lien on your house just to get that cup of garbage. And so here I am hoping that this is the one because I don't recognize any of the names. And I order my coffee. It's ridiculous. It was almost like $11. And I'm horrified internally as I'm watching this barista just ruin it by dumping all this milk into the coffee. So my frustration level is getting higher and higher and higher. So I grab my cup of joe and I start walking, and a prophet that I am, I was right. It was terrible. So I decide to go to another coffee shop. This is not a spirituality of poverty. I go to another coffee shop, but I don't want them to see me walk in with the enemy logo. So I think to myself, what could I do? And for some reason, throwing that cup of coffee out didn't register as a possibility. Now I look around the new coffee shop and I see there's no one in there. This is great. I know what I'll do. I'll put it on this chair, because if I put it on the table, someone's gonna see it. So I put it on the chair and I immediately go up to the counter to order my new cup. And right on cue, as if sent by God himself, some barbarian comes walking into the coffee shop and slams into the chair. Of all the chairs and tables in the whole place, goes right up to mine and whacks it, and my coffee flies into the air and my secrets spill all over the floor. Now this is the moment clearly I took responsibility for my actions. Just kidding. So I immediately defer to this other person to redirect attention, and I was like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? And then he looks back at me and goes, who puts a cup of coffee on a chair when there's a table right next to it? And then people start looking at me, and I ran away. I made a lot of mistakes in that process. But if you had to put your finger on the virtue that I lacked the most, be kind, which one would it be? I'd say prudence. Prudence is the virtue whereby we make right judgments according to the truth. Now the truth is, I could have just thrown that cup of coffee out and spared myself this whole thing. The truth is, I could stop being so high maintenance and just drank the cup of coffee, right? The truth is, I could have just put it on the table as evidence that their enemy is doing a terrible job, and that's why I'm here. There's a lot of truths here that went ignored. But prudence isn't just arriving at the truth, it's what you do with it. See, reason helps us discover the truth. Prudence takes that knowledge and turns it into action. It's one of the most practical virtues that we have. Prudence helps us find a partner for life, choose a school, decide what we're gonna eat, when it's time to stop drinking, when we should be going to bed. And an important aspect in order for prudence to really be prudential is foresight, whereby we're able to look down the road and make decisions now that will best dispose us for when that inevitable future comes. Like throwing the coffee out before I even get to the next place. So whether that's my decision not to snack right now so that I'm still hungry for dinner, or I'm picking a major in college that's gonna set me up for a prosperous future based on the lifestyle I think I wanna lead, prudence helps me do that. Okay, take that to the extreme. If you take that all the way to the finish line, then the most prudent question any of us could ask, what happens when we die? And how you answer that question will determine how you live your life now and what that outcome is going to mean in the future. Now, the readings, they offer different perspectives on this. If you look at Ecclesiastes, which the rich man in the parable of the gospel kind of represents, the end of man is just death. The life you have, that's all you get. After that, it's just oblivion. Okay, if that's true, then Prudence dictates that you should never deny yourself a single pleasure, because it's all coming to an end and soon the curtain's going to close. And I think that's the mentality that modern culture very much espouses. I know that was 20 years of my life, especially the two of them in college. Okay, but the problem with that mentality, which again the rich man represents, appears in his own speaking lines of the gospel. The rich man says, I have so many good things stored up. I shall eat, drink, and be merry. And then it goes on to say, he says to himself, I'll build bigger barns, blah, blah, blah. What do you notice about that? I mean, doesn't that feel kind of weird? I mean, the first thing I notice is the guy's talking to himself. Not that I don't do that, but in his consideration of what to do with his abundance, he's never thinking about other people and what is owed to them by virtue of justice. He's never asking God, because he's only talking to himself, God, what is your will for me in all of this? He's not reflecting on the condition of his soul, because it's not even on his radar. In fact, he only has one priority: satisfy every desire that I have in this life. And according to the atheistic mentality, that man is prudent. But God responds, you fool. This very night, your life will be taken from you. You see, the truth is, human life does not end in death. Each of us, as Paul will say in Romans, will give an account of ourselves before God. How we use our time, where we spend our resources, what we're giving our attention and our energy to. In fact, Paul says in Colossians that we heard this morning, anticipating the day of our judgment, how to spend today. Think of what is above, not what is of earth. Put to death the parts of you that are earthly. Stop lying to one another. In other words, make heaven your aim and then determine your life today based on that, in a manner that will prepare you for the day of your judgment, which should include mortifying the passions that are waging war against your soul and living an upright moral life, because morality actually matters. And what's interesting is that by revealing our eternal destiny to us, Jesus takes prudence, what we would think it would be, and he flips it entirely on his head. Because of eternal life and that whole event relativizing everything else, suddenly what would have been prudence at first blush, like eat, drink, and be merry, now becomes the opposite. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Take up your cross and follow me. The one who loses his life for my sake will save it. Do you see now why the world thinks Christians are fools? Why would you sacrifice your only life? But you understand why Christians think it's the other way around. All right, so when you look at your life, forget it. When you look at your week, would you say that you are living the prudent life? Are the things that claim your attention, are they deserving of that? Are the friends you keep, the TV you watch, the music you're listening to, are they preparing you for eternal life? there is no more important question that I could ask.